I want to thank you, first off, for allowing me to come here and speak to you. This is a hot-button issue. It is a matter of opinion. It's not something that we need to beat each other up over. It isn't something we need to get angry with each other over. It's a matter of opinion. And my opinion is very strong against it. And I fought hard for 8 years, and I'm going to say that I'm the driving force that's kept North Carolina from signing on to this thing for the 8 years that I was in the House. Let's start off. Let me read, just to refresh everybody here, okay, what Article 5 is. Okay, Convention of States, there's no such thing. It's not a Convention of States. That's a name they came up with, some group came up with, and that's fine. But if this thing comes to pass, it is a convention of the people. They work for us, they're there for us, they're not there for the states, and they're not there for the federal government. But here's Article 5, so just to refresh everybody, I'm sure everybody here has read it at some point. Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states, they shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution, when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by Congress. And then it talks about no amendment can be made. There was one of the amendments in the initial Constitution, and you couldn't change it before the year 1820. That's what it says. Does it say anything about a convention of states? It doesn't say anything about some of the things that we've been hearing over the years, some of the attempts. There's been an attempt every 15 or 20 years since the inception of this union. There's been an attempt to hold another constitutional convention. Almost immediately after the convention of 1787, there were folks who wanted another convention. What is a constitutional convention? That's been an issue with the Convention of States folks. They say, oh, this is not a constitutional convention. They don't want you using that language, that it's a constitutional convention. Because if you do, then those of us who have studied our history remember what happened at the last convention, Constitutional Convention. 1787, they were told, go in there and tweak the Articles of Confederation to make them suitable for the new union. What did they do? Did they tweak the Articles of Confederation? No, they didn't. They started from scratch, came up with a whole new form of government. Could that happen again? Question mark.
Wrong, Michael. Any real student of history would know that the convention in Philadelphia was not called by the Continental Congress, but by the resolution of the Annapolis Convention. Congress, under the Articles of Confederation, had no authority to call such a gathering. An honest reflection on history would show that John Tyler, with James Madison from Virginia and others, realized that the Union was in serious trouble. Even though they had won freedom from British rule, the states were not truly united. The Articles of Confederation was little more than a treaty of 13 separate entities. The federal government, under the Articles of Confederation, had no power to resolve the tariffs, trade barriers, and outright rebellions that was occurring among them. The 13 states were invited to convene at Mann's Tavern in Annapolis, Maryland in September of 1786 by James Madison. Their purpose then was to remedy defects in the federal government and to reform the United States commercial regulations due to the multitude of protectionist rules among the states. The convention was poorly attended by delegations from only 5 states. Those that did attend, however, debated and concluded that merely amending the Articles of Confederation was insufficient. They called for a more robust and inclusive gathering focusing on a broader solution. This is from the resolution of that Annapolis Convention, submitted to Congress and the 13 states, and I quote, "Your commissioners, with the most respectful deference, beg leave to suggest their unanimous conviction that it may essentially tend to advance the interests of the Union of the states by whom they have been respectfully delegated, would themselves concur, and use their endeavors to procure the concurrence of the other states in the appointment of commissioners to meet at Philadelphia on the second Monday in May next, to take into consideration the situation of the United States, to devise such further provisions as shall appear to them necessary, to render the Constitution of the federal government adequate to the exigencies of the Union, and to report such an act for that purpose to the United States assembled, as when agreed to by them, and afterwards confirmed by the legislatures of every state, will effectively provide for the same." End quote. A real student of history would thus know that the Constitutional Convention of Philadelphia was not a runaway convention, but proceeded under the intent of which it was called. Our Constitution is not illegitimate, but a carefully crafted, perhaps even divinely inspired document which established a government not based on tyranny, but to serve and be responsible to the people of this new nation. And within the new Constitution is a tool that we, the people, may use to amend the Constitution should the federal government become too powerful and tyrannical that it begins to fail to respect the freedoms and rights of its citizens. That tool is contained in Article 5 of the Constitution. The Convention of States proposes to use an Article 5 convention to rein in our current bloated federal government, to impose fiscal responsibility, curtail political dynasties, and stop the abuse of the powers granted that we granted to the federal government.